Good morning, everyone. It's a Saturday morning, the beginning of the Memorial Day weekend. It's the 24th of May already, June right around the corner, and we have lots of activity on the visible satellite loop on this Saturday morning. This slowly rotating upper level system that is producing cumulus unstable showers, but nothing severe up in that part of the world. Meanwhile, this thunderstorm complex has been making movements slowly across Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, and Arkansas this morning to blow off cirrus from that, and very heavy rain totals connected with that. This is going to be a common theme. I'll show you in a minute. And then we have another little band of convection up here in Nebraska. That is not severe, but we're watching the possibility. You can see these jet stream winds blowing in here, that this will activate the eastern part of Colorado, including the Denver area. We'll show you that here in a minute what the outlook calls for. This is one thunderstorm cluster that's making a beeline for the southeast. It turns into a squall line there. Meanwhile, another cluster of storms forms here and does the same thing. Meanwhile, another cluster of storms forms here and does the same thing. You can begin to see why this area is under a flood watch. We already had lots of rain last night, and even toward the end of the loop, more showers and thunderstorms form in Oklahoma. We'll outline the outlooks for that, and you'll see why those outlooks exist because of that forecast. So for Saturday, the severe weather threat is kind of a boomerang from West Texas up to Oklahoma City and then stretching all the way across Arkansas to Birmingham, Alabama, a good chunk of Mississippi as well. And this is a reflection of the fact that these thunderstorms are forming along a frontal boundary and are just continuing to form in clusters and roll one after another over about the same ground. Now, usually the heavier rain portion is up here and the severe weather portion is closer to the unstable air. So that's why that's laid out. Notice that this Category 1 does extend up into Wyoming and parts of Colorado. Now look at the tornado threat. There's some interesting opinions on this according to the models. This is the SPC official forecast, which you should always follow. They have a 5% tornado risk in the heart of Oklahoma for later today. A small chunk of Texas, Wichita Falls, and Oklahoma City are both in that. And then the 2% kind of stretches along that boundary where the severe weather is expected. So that's at least a part of why the severe weather forecast was made. We'll talk about this area in a second, and this area too here in Denver, and up to not quite, well, yeah, Cheyenne, southeast Wyoming has a 2% risk of tornadoes as well. Let's take a look at Nadocast. That's my new graphic here. The link is in the description if you want to go check that out for yourself. It also does hail and severe weather, but it tends and trends and tends to emphasize this 5%. The colors are not quite the same. 5 here. No, actually they are. That's right. 5 SPC, same color. So they're really focusing on northern parts of Mississippi and Alabama. That's because that initial squall line, as you remember from the radar projection, was doing something like this today. So they're thinking that has maybe a higher possibility. They're also emphasizing the Denver area for that tornado threat, and also on SIPs, tornado probability, the Denver area is put at a slightly higher probability. So we'll see what happens with that today. And I think even CSU usually is the more aggressive one with tornadoes. Now they put the threat area in here, but not they don't bullseye it. Meanwhile, they really are talking about each of these individual bursts of convection that I was just showing you on the simulated radar. Probably have a higher probability of producing tornadoes through Oklahoma. So that's a little bit different than the actual forecast with the hail maximum right there in Enid and into southern Kansas. Let's go look ahead to Sunday, as this area basically doesn't change a whole lot, actually. Same area as you saw, and you should expect this because that's what that model was showing. The same areas get hit again and again with clusters of storms that kind of form in this general area and kind of do this, and then we might have some backfill of storms down south into Texas. That's what that represents. The tornado forecast for Sunday is a little more muted, 2% from Oklahoma City down to Lubbock, but they may have reason to increase that a little bit. Especially with tornado forecasting, day 2 is even a little more difficult. Day 1 is updated fairly frequently. Day 2, not as much, and it's because tornadoes require some special knowledge of the lower winds in the atmosphere that may not be all that accurate if you go out too far. But let's take a look at what CSU has to say about Sunday's tornado forecast. They actually put the bullseye in northern Arkansas and south central Missouri, so a very interesting setup here. So I'm just keeping an eye on that that. And I live in Missouri here in Springfield, and put the X in the right place. But that's something to keep an eye on. It really does depend on where these clusters form and how much unstable air can move out ahead of them before the next one forms. That determines their severity, and then the local level winds. The problem with tornadoes in this case is each of those thunderstorm clusters leaves behind a boundary, and where those boundaries end up can often focus the low-level rotation that thunderstorms need for tornadoes. So is that known well in advance? We're better than we used to be, but it bears watching over the weekend for sure. And then we go into Monday, which is still technically the weekend, Memorial Day, and we still have that threat area, but it has finally sunk south a little bit, including Dallas and much of North Texas. The tornado risk with that one shifts into Arkansas later on that night. That's my interpretation of what's going on there with that probability. Then finally, on Tuesday, things calm down. The severe threat bullseye sinks far into southwest Texas. On Wednesday, the probabilities are pretty low and spread out through Dixie and through parts of Colorado and New Mexico. Thursday, same deal, almost the same areas. And then finally on Friday, strangely, New England kind of shows up as a slight probability of severe weather, and it seems like it's trying to advect more back to the north by late in the week. Here is the final maps we'll look at, the supercell composite by Northern Illinois University. This is for the next 7 days. It verifies, especially the supercells sinking, I think, into South Texas, as we showed you. So those outlooks may actually enhance later in the week. We'll see how that goes. May 31st through June 6th. Actually, this is one of the quieter charts that I've shown you since the double lows, the blocking pattern we showed you several weeks back. Except for the southeast, supercells are calming down a little bit for the first week of June, and then they pick up a little bit. According to climatology, you expect more severe thunderstorms to follow the jet stream, which tends to be moving north in spring up to here, so the unstable air can get up there too, and that's why you're seeing that little maximum up there. We'll keep watching it. Stay safe this weekend, and I hope it's going to be kind of frustrating if you're in one of those little thunderstorm cluster zones, because you're going to think you're in the clear, and then the next one's going to come along. So it's a pretty wet pattern. Remember, flood watches are in effect for much of that area. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you in the next video. Thanks for watching today's edition of Severe Thunderstorm Outlooks. This is published every day after the morning Storm Prediction Center update. Also, remember to check that site off on day one because they update it fairly frequently. If you like this video, please like it. Also, you can subscribe to the channel for more content just like this.